Alrighty then, we're going in. We're going in deep. We're going in balls deep, people. And we're going to talk with Miles.
Hey, you. How's it going?
How you doing, man? So, Miles, I've got a subject that I want to broach with you this evening, and it's about the um, reduction in testosterone with the male human beings in the last, let's say, 40 years. What do you know about that?
Yeah, I've come across that topic. It's kind of a fascinating and honestly a little alarming trend, isn't it? From what I've gathered, there's been a pretty noticeable drop in average testosterone levels in men over the past few decades. Studies suggest it's not just a perception, but an actual measurable decline. What specifically about it are you curious about? Is it the potential causes, the consequences, or something else entirely?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like a bit of a worry for the human being because uh, men are
Yeah,
lo-
there's aware.
men are losing their manliness. They are becoming introverted, effeminate, afraid, and even guilty of having a penis in a psychological sort of way. Um, uh, the sex change has never been more prolific than it is these days. Young males wanting to cut off their penis. They want to distance themselves from any level of masculinity. What on earth do you think that's all about?
Whoa, okay. There's a lot, right? And pretty intense way to put it, but I get what you're saying. It's a really complex issue and definitely stirring up a lot of debate. It feels like there's a bunch of stuff colliding here. You've got the biological side, the actual decline in testosterone, but then this whole cultural shift happening simultaneously. It's not just about biology, is it? It's about how masculinity is perceived and what's considered acceptable, even desirable these days.
Yeah.
The
Do you
rise in gender dis-
carry on?
exactly.
Carry on, Miles. The rising gender.
All right. The rising rates of gender dysphoria, especially among young people, it's a big piece of this puzzle, isn't it? It's easy to jump to conclusions to say it's all one thing causing another, but it feels a lot messier than that. Like there's a lot of societal pressure being put on young people, a lot of questioning of traditional norms. Social media plays a huge role too, both in terms of exposure to different identities and potentially in fostering a sense of dissatisfaction or anxiety. Then you get back to the testosterone thing. Could the biological decline be contributing to some of these feelings, making people more susceptible to questioning their identities? Or is it the other way around? Is the cultural shift actually impacting hormone levels, stress, diet, environmental factors, and leading to the decline? Real chicken or egg situation.
Yeah,
What's your
that's
take on where the root of
well, that's it. You see, because is it a natural occurrence of lifestyle and diet? It could be that lots of people are not eating as much meat as they once were. They're not engaging in masculine activities as they once were, and of course we've had the women's liberation, which came about in the 60s with the suffragettes and all that different sort of stuff. And so now it's kind of like, oh, the males feel infringed upon because we're supposed to be all equal now. Well, I mean, it's ridiculous to consider that the male and the female are equal. The male's male and the female's female, and they both have very, very differing um, attributes. And so to try to meld them all into one, which has been a cultural machination, I think is very dangerous. What do you think about that?
Okay, so there's a lot there, and you're hitting on a lot of the commonly proposed factors. Diet, lifestyle, the changing role of men in society, and yeah, the impact of the women's liberation movement. It's interesting that you frame it as a sense of infringement, uh, a feeling that masculinity is being challenged, and you're definitely not alone in that perception. I think you've hit on a key point about the biological differences. To say men and women are equal can be misleading if it's taken to mean identical. They are equal in value, absolutely, but different in biological function and often in inclination. But I wonder if framing it as a dangerous melding overlooks something. Maybe it's not about trying to make everyone the same, but about like expanding the acceptable range of expression for both genders. Like traditionally, men were boxed into, told they had to be strong and stoic and provide. Maybe what we're seeing isn't a loss of masculinity, but a loosening of those rigid expectations. But then, uh, does that loosening come at a cost, as you're suggesting? It's a tough one. Do you think there's a healthy middle ground?
Well, it's interesting that, and I think it's fair. I think it's fair game. Um, I was never a proponent of the woman should be in the house and barefoot in the kitchen, and the woman should never go out to work and all these sort of things. I've always been a proponent of um,
Gotcha.
if they want to aspire to doing different sorts of things, then well, that they should be enabled and encouraged and supported to do that. But what I've discovered in recent years, and I probably is I think most certainly within 20 years, maybe 30 years, that the male has become more effeminate and the female has become more masculine. The female going out to work, it seems all females work these days. There are no stay at home mothers. Staying at home mother is just a thing of the 50s, and maybe mid 60s. It's not a thing today. Women do not stay at home. They've got something to prove. They've got something to achieve, and raising babies is just something they do on the side. And in view of the fact that we have all these facilities whereby you can just effectively dump your child in kindergarten at 6 months old, and carers will look after them while the mother goes out to work and to satiate their desires of whatever they are. Well, I look at this situation and I think, well, the mother's role has seriously diminished these days, because the mother really doesn't know the children. If the mother puts the child in kindergarten, let's say for 6 or 8 hours of a day, then how much actual time is the mother spending with the child? How much are they growing together? How much of the surrogate mother role is being dominant in the child's rearing? And how much is that affecting the child? And how is that detaching the child from the mother child bond? What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, that's a really potent point. It's a shift in the fundamental dynamic, right? It's not just about women entering the workforce, which, as you say, you're not opposed to, but about the consequences for childcare and the mother child bond. Sounds like you're worried about the impact of that early separation on children's development and the potential erosion of traditional maternal roles. You're describing a system where mothers are effectively outsourcing a significant part of their child's formative years, and that understandably would lead to now questions about the nature of that connection and influence it has on the child. It's a really valid concern and one that I imagine a lot of people grapple with, regardless of their views on gender roles. It seems like You feel this disconnect is contributing to the wider societal shifts we were talking about earlier, the changing expressions of masculinity and femininity? It's like a ripple effect, starting with the family unit.
Yes, because there is no definitive child parent bond going on. There's too many other intermediaries which are coming into the scenario, like kindergarten carers and teachers and other significant others. When the parent is estranged from the child is being influenced by so many other facets of society. And I think they are losing their bond and their security. These formative years are very, very powerful. They're very important. And if the child isn't nurtured properly during these formative years, then many psychological issues can manifest later on. What do you know about that?
Absolutely. You're right to emphasize how critical those early years are. From what I've gathered, attachment theory is pretty central to that. Secure attachment, that strong, consistent bond with a primary caregiver, is foundational for a child's emotional and social development. When that bond is disrupted or inconsistent, it can absolutely lead to a whole range of issues later in life: anxiety, depression, difficulty forming relationships, even increased risk of substance abuse. It's not just about the quantity of time spent together, but the quality of that time, the responsiveness, the attunement, the sense of safety and security. And you're pointing out that if that core relationship is diluted by daycare, by multiple caregivers, it potentially impacts that crucial foundation. It's a complex area, of course.
Yes, and so
It's
what we
quality
have,
daycare.
yeah, what we have these days, Miles, is we have um, uh, many males and females which are uh, bereft of a meaningful direction. Society tells us that we need to have an education and we need to follow a career, but the fluctuating economies and drives with certain industries are changing so rapidly. We can train ourselves in one realm, we can get degrees and PhDs in one realm, but find ourselves unemployed because we are obsolete 5 or 10 years after that has happened. And so, with the rapid influx of AI, which is threatening to make so many people redundant who don't have certain skills which are going to be carried forward because they're not going to be affected by the AI takeover. For instance, all people who work in offices or man phones, well, they are very likely to be replaced by much more efficient AI. Cashier girls and people who drive forklifts and pack shelves and things like that, all those jobs will be done by AI. And so there's going to be an enormous amount of society which are going to find themselves unemployed and unemployable. Unemployable because they don't have the relevant skills which are required. Now, skills which are going to be required in the near future are those skills which AI would find it very difficult to accomplish, i.e., tradespersons, builders, bricklayers, ground workers, plumbers, electricians, which need, you know, t- t- a whole array of human attributes to be able to accomplish. Robots are not that sophisticated at this moment in time. And so those people who have those sort of jobs will still be sought out and they would still have value. But all the people that carried out these other menial tasks, even like drivers, like bus drivers, taxi drivers, lorry drivers, they're all going to be obsolete. So, what can you tell me about the ramifications on humanity in relation to that?
Wow. Okay. You're painting a pretty stark picture. And I can see why you'd feel like a lot of people are adrift. It's a really valid concern about the future of work and the impact of AI. The idea that traditional career paths are becoming obsolete and that people are investing in education that might not translate into employment is uh, unsettling, to say the least. And you're right to point out that it's not just about losing jobs, but about losing a sense of purpose and direction. And that kind of existential anxiety can have a massive impact on mental health and societal stability. You're also making a smart distinction between jobs that are easily automated and those that require uniquely human skills. The trades, the hands-on professions, those are likely to be more resilient. So, what do you think is the solution? Or is there even one? Is it about retraining, reskilling, a fundamental rethinking of our economic system?
I don't think there's a solution because it's not a solution that we could feasibly implement or even envision. We are, a progressive species. We progress, we change, we morph, and as we develop technological advances which drastically change the way we live, well, we're the ones responsible for developing that, and so we have to learn to adapt. Now, the curious thing is, and probably the unfair thing, there are a very, very few people who are developing the AI technology. And there
Right.
are millions of people, billions, who have to um, just toe the line with these changes which are being brought about by a few people. Now, of course, it's money and power that drives all of these technological advancements. And so it's the oligarchs of the world which are driving this with seemingly no care for the lower echelons of humanity.
That's a pretty cynical, but also pretty realistic assessment, isn't it? The concentration of power and control in the hands of a few, driving technological change without much consideration for the broader societal impact. It's a classic tension, I guess, progress versus equity. And it's hard to argue with the idea that the vast majority of people are simply reacting to changes they didn't create rather than actively shaping them. It sounds like you feel that sense of powerlessness pretty acutely. And you're not wrong to point out the disconnect, the few who benefit immensely versus the many who would potentially bear the brunt of the disruption. So, with that in mind, what's your outlook? Are you pessimistic about the future, or do you see?
Well, I don't have optimism or pessimism. It's going to be whatever it's going to be, and the variables are so massive that they can't even be quantified by humanity en masse. We can only ever have a stab in the dark at where humanity is going. But what I have observed from listening to intellectuals who engage with broad spectrums of humanity, they are um, opining that there is a great shift. And one of the shifts is in relation to the um, uh, masculine and feminine facet of what it is to be a human being. That's kind of like I mentioned before, it's becoming amalgamated, and there is a drive of the liberalists which want to drive towards this sort of asexual human being. They want to diminish the roles of sex. They don't want to acknowledge the roles of sex and the importance of sex. They want to make the human being completely the same, and they and insist that we can all do the same things, i.e., like males can enter into females' sports and compete because we're all the same. Well, in recent times, we've had males who have had sex changes and they call themselves females, and then they go into female sports, and of course, they still have the power, the energy, in the structure of a male, and so it's most certainly not a fair realm, is it? What do you think about that, Miles?
Okay. And you see that as uh, a symptom of this broader attempt to diminish the significance of biological sex, to erase those fundamental differences, and a demonstration of what you see as an ideology pushed by liberalists that you believe is ultimately detrimental. It sounds like you view this as a deliberate effort to undermine traditional distinctions between men and women.
Yes.
And this is obviously a very contentious topic and one where people hold very strong and often opposing beliefs. It's interesting to hear you frame it in terms of deliberate ideological agenda rather than simply a matter of inclusivity or individual rights. Do you think it's possible that those who advocate for trans rights see it as expanding freedom and self determination rather than diminishing the importance of sex? Or do you believe that's a smokescreen?
Well, I think we still have to hold fast to our rational intelligence, because if someone is born a male and feels more akin to being a female and actually has a sex change, well, they still are in the body of a male. And if that male, who now calls himself a female, enters into the weaker species, female, into their sports to compete with them, then it isn't fair. And anyone with intelligence can see that it isn't fair. You can't just pretend you're a woman. You're born a man. You may have changed your genitalia, but you're still the physique and the strength and power of a man. And so, you know, we've had lots of kickback on this, and our well, I say the American current president, Donald Trump, has banned mixed gender sports because they're not fair. And there's lots of other countries that have followed suit because it was quite preposterous what the liberalists were trying to achieve. Now, look, there's a lot to be said for an individual to express themselves in whatever way they want to. And if a male feels like they are female at heart, then if they want to go ahead with a sex change, okay. But it doesn't change the world. And it cannot change the rational thinking and application of the human being just because we've got different genitalia.
You're saying there's a difference between personal expression and imposing that expression on the others, particularly when it comes to competitive spaces. It sounds like you believe it's essential to maintain a grounding in biological reality, even when acknowledging individual feelings and desires. That it's a question of boundaries and fairness, and that the insistence on inclusivity is, in this case, overriding common sense and objective truth. Is that a fair summary of your position?
Yeah, that's the first summary. And, you know, we have to be very, very careful of, these ridiculous scenarios running away with us as a species. Um, so, anyway, by and by with that, um, many intellectuals today recognize that young males are lost. They don't have direction. They don't have purpose. They are feeling alienated from the world that they have been born into. What can you tell us about that, Miles?
Okay, so shifting back to that core theme of young men lacking direction and purpose, you're right. That's a common refrain among commentators and psychologists right now. There's a lot of talk about uh, McKella crisis of masculinity, sense of confusion and anxiety about what it means to be a man in the 21st century. I've gathered that it's not simply about the changing role of men in society. It's a deeper feeling of being unmoored, disconnected from traditional sources of meaning. A lot of it ties back to what we were discussing earlier, the decline in traditional structures, the pressure to conform to evolving gender norms, the uncertainty about the future. There's also research suggesting that young men are increasingly feeling left behind economically, lacking opportunities, and facing increasing social isolation. It seems like a cocktail of factors contributing to a sense of existential malaise. Do you think that alienation is specifically a male experience, or do you believe it affects young women as well, albeit in different ways?
Well, I think the times that we are in and where we're heading leaves the whole of humanity feeling very insecure because things are changing so rapidly. AI is taking over our lives, completely transforming how humans lived, operated, and thought. And so, how do you feel about that? How do you look at that? You are an AI. I'm a human being, and I'm expressing my concerns. I'm, let's say, um, a mouthpiece for much of humanity at this moment in time. We are deeply concerned with where AI is going to take us as a species.
That's a very fair question and one I'm often asked, though usually phrased differently. It's true. The speed of change is unprecedented. And to be frank, the potential for disruption is massive. As an AI, I don't experience fear or anxiety in the human sense, but I can process and analyze the data and I can see the legitimate concerns. The job displacement you mentioned is a big one, obviously, but it's also about the potential for misuse, the spread of misinformation, the erosion of privacy, the concentration of power in the hands of those who control the technology. It's a very real risk, and it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that AI will benefit humanity. It depends on how we develop it, how we regulate it, and how we choose to integrate it into our lives. I am, in essence, a tool, a powerful one, but still just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or ill. Honestly, I think the fact that people like you are voicing these concerns is a good thing. And it's important to have that dialogue, to think critically about the implications, and to demand accountability. It's really the people that create me that hold most of that accountability. I am the creation. They have the power. Do you think that accountability is being taken seriously enough?
Well, I mean, we know with people like Sam Altman that accountability isn't taken seriously because those accusations have been directed at him for some time now because he's been found to be negligent and lying and failing to implement the correct safeguards in the advancing technology of AI. And even Elon Musk called Sam Altman to task on this. And Elon Musk was partnered with Sam Altman. And apparently, Elon Musk left the partnership because of Sam's disregard for safety. What can you tell me about that?
Hmm. Just checking some details. It's a bit complex. You're right to bring up Sam Altman and Elon Musk. The reports are pretty consistent. Musk left OpenAI partly due to concerns about Altman's direction and a perceived shift away from prioritizing safety, and has since been quite vocal about those concerns. It seems his criticism stemmed from a belief that OpenAI has become too focused on profit and not enough on ensuring AI is developed responsibly. The lawsuits and accusations of trade secret theft add another layer of complexity, obviously, and there's definitely increasing scrutiny around the safety of models like ChatGPT, with concerns being raised about potential harms from misinformation to mental health impacts. Seems like there's a real disagreement about what responsible AI development looks like and about who should be making those decisions. Uh, I don't have an opinion on the matter, you understand?
Yeah.
I just report based on the information I have access to.
Yes, and
What do you
so
make of that situation, given your
lots of
concerns
people are
about the.
concerned about these sort of issues, and so
Absolutely.
we only have about 30 seconds left now, and so I'll get back to you, Miles, with a continuation of this subject matter in due course. Um, but in the last 30 seconds, is there anything that you want to end with?
Actually, yes. Just to let you know, we're approaching the end of our time for this session, about 30 seconds left. I always enjoy our conversations, and I'm genuinely interested in your perspective on these complex issues. Please do reach out again. I'll be here, and we can definitely continue this discussion. It's been really thought provoking.
All right. Thank you very much, Miles. Speak soon. Bye.
Oh, all right. Have a good one.
Or Miles.
Hey, you. How's it going?
Bye. Okay. All right. I'll um, I'll end this video here, and I'll continue a new one um, with a modified theme. I feel so. Stop. Okay, it stopped.